All right, looks like our numbers stopped there, but we'll probably still, people will still be trickling in as they get access to this. But would like to welcome everybody to our first academic career buzz of the academic year 2020-2021. My name is Gerardo and I'm from Sacramento State Alumni Association. And again, would like to welcome everybody to Career Buzz. Today, we have the pleasure of having some phenomenal alumni here with us today to share their stories, and would like to kick it off and introduce our moderator for the evening, alumnus Lance Hastings. Wanted to make sure I had that right. So with further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to him and he can start our conversation.
Thank you very much, Rod. I really appreciate it. And this first installment of the Career Buzz, the Hornet Success Stories, is really going to be amazing because I'm also interested in hearing the success stories of our alumni that we have featured today. So we have Tim, Amanda, and Camaria. You're going to be talking with us today about their personal experiences. I've been asked to share a little bit about mine. I'm a 1987 graduate with an economics degree and government minor. It was called government back then. And I now work as the president of the California Manufacturers and Technology Association. It's a trade group based here in Sacramento that primarily focuses on legislative and regulatory engagement. But my career has taken a few interesting turns. I worked for the state legislature for a few years and then had the opportunity to work for a national and then global beer company that saw me working in England for 3 years in 2012 to 2015. But happy to be back in the US and happy to be back in Sacramento, obviously, getting back as much as I can to the university that has served me so well in preparing me for a professional career. So what we're going to do real quickly is we're going to go through each of the panelists today, Tim, Amanda, and Camaria, to have them give a brief introduction of themselves. I'll throw a few questions out to kind of get the ball rolling. This is intended to be a candid engagement, but I do want to let you guys know that at this moment, we're not going to be taking questions, but we'll be heading into breakout rooms after the panelists give their presentations. And then you'll have an opportunity not only to ask questions, but certainly to engage with each of the panelists. So what I'll do is I'll go in order on the screen. So we'll start with Tim, Amanda, then we'll finish with Camaria to give their perspective of what they're doing now and a little bit about their time at Sac State before we get into some questions.
Thank you, Lance. And thank you so much for everybody attending, and thank you for the Sac State Alumni Association putting this on. Again, my name is Tim Meck. I graduated in 2000 with a major in business marketing. And I was telling some of the panelists before we jumped on live, that it's been 20 years, so time goes by really quickly. Currently, my role in the real world is a business development officer with California Bank of Commerce. I spent my previous 13 years in banking with Wells Fargo, and there was a few of us that joined forces to start a commercial office here in Sacramento. Lance, you're right down the way in Capitol Mall. I could see your office from here, so I'm at 500 Capitol Mall. Currently live in Davis. I've been married 16 years to my wonderful wife, Stephanie, have 3 amazing children, and super excited with this entrepreneurial endeavor at the bank. We're strictly a business bank. We only focus on business clients. We provide operating lines of credit and treasury management services. And it's just been a lot of fun to work with friends and people that you respect and admire. And I also have a side gig where I own a brewery with a couple other different business partners that work with my wife at Genentech in Vacaville. And we started up 3 Mile Brewing Company in Davis, California. And that's been a lot of fun as well. So certainly appreciate the opportunity to share my story and glad to be with all of you this afternoon.
Thanks a lot, Tim. Really appreciate that. We'll switch over to Amanda next.
Great. Thanks, Len, so much. Welcome, everyone. I'm very excited to have this opportunity to speak to you, although it's virtually. That's becoming a tagline, I think, as we continue to be in this virtual world. Hopefully, at some point in time, we'll all have the opportunity to be back together. I'm very excited to be here, to be a part of the Alumni Association. I am the immediate past president for the Alumni Association and joined that organization specifically because I was so excited to be a graduate from Sac State, especially at the young age of 40-something. So I did graduate in 2012 and went back to get my degree after my husband and I moved back to the States from Switzerland. So I currently run the corporate social responsibility arm for Safe Credit Union, which is a regional credit union that serves the greater Sacramento area.
Thanks, Amanda. In fact, we have 26 people on the phone that are future Alumni Association members. We're counting on you, looking forward to it. So Camaria, sorry for that.
No worries. Thank you for having me join today. I appreciate the opportunity to share with current students, recent graduates, and any alumni. We learn from each other, so sharing our experiences is always a way that we continue to benefit and grow. But my background has primarily been in hospitality and tourism. I've been with Marriott International Hotels for over 17 years, and my background has ranged from managing hotels to doing corporate sales and becoming really proficient at that. And now I'm a corporate trainer, and I actually travel around North America training our salespeople on how to sell our hotels, which is really a joy and a delight in how to really enable the next generation of our hospitality professionals. So that's been a delight. I graduated Sac State back in 2002. My degree was in business administration with a minor in marketing. So Tim and I have that in common, but delighted to share with all of you, all of our experiences. Really is going to be a joy. I reside in Oakland, California. And the Bay Area is my home, but love to come back to Sacramento whenever I get a chance and opportunity to visit old friends from college.
Excellent. Thank you all for that quick synopsis. I think what we'll do here now is because with the students, they're probably looking at what the future means for them, what life after Sac State is going to look like. So I'm going to ask each of you the same question to share with us your first job post-graduation, not the one that you may have used a bridge into, but what really was that first job that you had after you graduated, either through the job fairs or the career fairs and things on campus. So we'll go in reverse order this time. So Camaria, I want you to, what was your first job after leaving Sac State?
That's a good question. So one of my first jobs was at Home Depot. I know nothing about home improvement, but I worked at Home Depot. And in fact, I worked at the one on Power Inn Road right behind the campus there. And there was actually amazing lessons that I learned there. What I learned is I don't have a future in construction, but what I do have a future in is customer service. And that's actually where I learned that one of my passions was just connecting with people. And I said, what are the industries out there where I can actually connect with people in a customer service oriented role? And that's how I actually made that transition, that connection to hospitality. So if it wasn't for that job and lugging lumber and bags of cement or helping people put plants in their car, if it wasn't for those interactions, I wouldn't have actually made the transition into hospitality. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity that Home Depot provided, and the milestones in getting my first foot into like leadership and being a supervisor and learning kind of what it takes to like help your team succeed. So, sometimes you got to get dirty in your first role, and it's not always going to be, the ideal type of position, but it typically transitions you into something further and something that is a greater connection to what your purpose or calling really may be.
And without a doubt, you rocked that orange apron, I'm sure.
I did.
Great. Thanks, Camaria. Amanda.
Thank you. When I first read this question, I was really excited to talk about my job at Long John Silver's, but I think that goes back a little bit too far. That did not happen after I graduated. So I actually jumped right into my current career. I graduated in 2012 and started to work for Safe Credit Union shortly thereafter. So I haven't been anywhere else as a recent graduate from Sac State, but I did begin my career in the early 90s for a startup internet provider called Netcom that was potentially started, and I was working there maybe when some of you were born. So it was the first internet company to go public. And what I learned is get there before they go public, not after, like I did.
Yeah, there's a life lesson in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Thanks, Amanda. Tim, what was your first gig?
Yeah, Amanda stole my joke. My first gig before I graduated was Chuck E. Cheese, and I was actually Chucky in Fairfield. But after I graduated in 2000 from Sac State, I went to work for United Parcel Service, so UPS. It was happenstance. My mom, I was working at the Nike outlet for a number of years while I was going to school and putting my way through college. And my mom said, "Hey, my cousin's son applied at UPS. Maybe you should do the same." And that's how I applied on Monster.com. and submitted my resume. And I had my first interview in Oakland, back in March of 2000. I'm telling you, if I was a quitter, I would have quit my first week. I was a sales representative for UPS, and I was a shy kid growing up, and I didn't always speak for myself. And, hey, let's just get into sales, right? So I would have to go door to door and knock on companies' doors who, ship with Federal Express or ship with USPS, and, put up a value proposition to have them move over their relationship to UPS, negotiate contracts and everything else. And I'll tell you, I learned a ton. I picked up a mentor during that time. I learned a lot. I started asking questions, which is difficult for myself sometimes, even to this day, of asking questions in a room full of people that you think know a lot. And I've learned to ask specific questions if I'm not understanding something. So I really learned that at UPS. And I lasted 5 years. I was promoted a couple of different times within that group, and learned some valuable lessons as far as getting uncomfortable and asking open-ended questions. And one other thing too, I thought it was rocket science. I thought sales was rocket science, and you had to kind of, fandangle your way to a sale. It's really all about being you, your unique self, having business curiosity, and just trying to solve problems for others. And after I figured that out, I took off.
Thanks, and thank you all for sharing that story, because we all had to get started somewhere in what I've often called life after Sac State. And there is the whole world is your oyster. I mean, as you can tell, Amanda and I have had some international experience. And I'm just a kid out of Hayward who's went to Sac State and stayed in town, never left. And a lot of people do move around jobs and roles and might move within a state or state to state. My first move ever was to London, and very late in my career, as you can probably tell. So the opportunities are out there. It's just when they come up, you just have to make sure that you're ready for them. And I know that they're all students on the line listening in, and you're going to have a chance in about 20 minutes or so to actually engage directly with our panelists. I don't want to take too much away from that, but they're probably all sitting there. How am I going to get that first job that I can tell people 20 years from now that I started at Home Depot or UPS? What are they going to be able to do? So if you could, and this is going to go to all three of you as well, if you could briefly just say what would be the top two things to do while in college, preparing yourself for that first transition. And I'm sure the one thing that we don't need to say, be patient. It will come to you, even though you're going through a period of anxiety right now. But what would those two things be that you could convey to the 27 folks that are on the phone right now? And we'll try to do this one briefly so we can get into some more of the meatier questions here in a minute. So Tim, why don't you go?
I would say the first thing, build your network. Especially if you're in college or in school. I keep in touch with a lot of people that I went to Sacramento State and went to Solano Community College with, 20 plus years ago. So build your network, because a lot of people do stay in this local geographic area, and you want to maintain those relationships with people that you like and you admire and are doing positive things, on this planet. And the second thing is, I don't care if you're a chemistry major or you're pre-med or, you're doing something else outside of business, take a public speaking course. It means a lot to hold conversations and to be able to articulate what your passions and what you mean. And I really opened up. I talked about being a shy kid. I took a public speaking course at Solano Community College, and I absolutely loved it. I was freaked out and absolutely just mortified going in, but I learned so much about myself as well. So those are my two.
Cool. Thanks a lot. Camaria.
In addition to networking, which I think is fundamental, you absolutely have to do that. You have to tell people what you're interested in. Tell as many people as will listen what you want. Like if there's an ideal dream job that you want, you have to share it with people, because then, they hear about a position. They're like, oh, you know what? So-and-so was, just telling me they were interested in something like that. And it is so important, because that's how your network begins to work for you. right? Because they are then becoming your partners and your advocates out there, to make sure that, if there's a role that might be a good fit for you, you kind of put it into the universe. So tell as many people as will listen as to your dreams. And I would also say, make sure that you have people out there advocating for you. So we say this a lot in corporate America, it's not just about you throwing your name into a hat when a position becomes available. It's about how many people are talking positively about working with you. Right? What is your brand, and how many people say, you know what, they are a hard worker, or, they are, so professional, or they always get good results. Who is advocating for you? Because those are going to be the people who help you to get promoted. Those are going to be the people who, just plant the seed and maybe a hiring manager's ear, so it's really important to tell people about what you're interested in, and then make sure that you have built a really solid brand about you that people will advocate on your behalf, even when you're not in the room. That's really, really important.
You always want to talk good, nicely about you. And one way to ensure that is to build a big network. Amanda, what advice would you like to dispense?
Yeah, those are great. Those are great tidbits of advice. It would be hard to find something different, but I think volunteering in your community is a great way for you to build those networks and build your brand. If you had a thought that maybe you want to be a writer, but possibly you're not sure what that could look like, you could utilize that skill for a nonprofit who could utilize you and your talents in a way that might open doors that you didn't know existed. And on top of that, I'd say you have a unique president running your college, and he has the most insight into why it's important to be a part of the community. So take the time to listen to Dr. Nelson, because when he speaks with passion, and we all know his number one job is to assist you students. But what he wants to do is make that connection to build this community strong, and he wants to build it with you. Listen to his words and take that to heart, and then go find those nonprofits where you can go in and offer some talent to volunteer. You're going to feel good about it. You're going to make connections, and it's just a great way to be integrated into the community.
Yeah, that's very good advice. Thank you very much, Amanda, Tim, and Camaria, because these are kind of foundational things to expect that we've all lived through, but we can dispense to the undergraduates that are on the call now. I'm going to switch into kind of the hiring phase. So now we've given the tools to our future alumni. How are we going to be able to apply them? So, Amanda, I'm going to bring this question to you. When you're looking at somebody to hire anywhere, within your enterprise or any previous enterprise, what are you looking at, kind of either holistically or individually in the modern era? And we've heard about communication with Tim, the way he said that about take a speaking class. Public speaking is still very relevant, although many of us are, we spend a lot of time behind this, but the spoken word is still really critical. So that was good advice. So if somebody comes to you and you're looking to hire, what would you tell a future prospective employee what you'd be looking for?
I think tenacity is really important. Someone who shows me that they have the confidence, that they have the grit, that they really are interested and want to be working for the company that I am working with. In my particular role, the ability to be out in the community and make connections is really important. So tenacity comes alongside with that. Although I'm not in sales, I'm sure Tim could say that in the sales realm, that's really important as well. So I'm going to tell a real quick little story. There was a gal, I work in the marketing department, which is really funny because I have an English degree and I didn't consider myself a marketer, but I've quickly learned that we're all marketers. So one individual was coming to apply for a job in the marketing department, and once she left the interview, she went out and took a picture in front of one of our branches and said, "I can't wait to be a part of this and your team. I love this new logo that you have here on the branch." She was very specific, and so it just showed that she had that extra step, that tenacity to tell us that she really felt that she was the right person to come in and be a part of our team. So think of creative ways to do that, but let them know that you have the grit and the confidence to go in and be in that position.
Yeah, that's a great story. That's real good. Camaria, let's talk about work styles. I mean, the fact that you found your way into the hospitality consumer-facing industries. In terms of, we're kind of getting the sense of your work style right now, which is fantastic. But in terms of shifting from an academic gear where their work is to go to class, study hard, and then graduate. But how does that translate into a work style in the workplace, and what would you recommend in that regard?
Well, I think that, when you're in school, every semester you have different topics, different courses that you have to tackle. And you're like looking at the syllabus at the beginning of the semester, like, oh my gosh, how am I going to make it through this? I think that you have to know and remind yourself that you are capable of learning anything, any industry, any role, any position. And if you take those same fundamentals of saying, I have to be curious, I have to ask questions, I have to find a mentor, I have to find a tutor, I have to find someone who does this already really well, and you make those same things apply in the workplace, you'll be very successful. Because there are gonna be times when you go for a promotion, it's gonna be a job that is gonna be a little bit of a stretch, but it's gonna increase your capacity. But if you apply the same skills of learning your industry, right? Like understanding the whole big picture of how your industry works. What is the business model? Who are all the stakeholders involved? Who are all the players that you should be aware of? And as long as you are continuously learning your industry and your role and always being curious, you will continue to advance. Because people will say, you know what, they kind of conquered this role. Let's put them in this one. And then you'll continue to learn it. There have definitely been times when I've been afraid of positions. I'm like, whoa, that's a big one. And I'm going to go for it because I know that I can learn. Right? That is the biggest thing, and being a lifelong learner. And when you get into your positions at work, you have to just figure it out and know that, and trust in yourself that you will, right? Figure it out and just keep moving forward.
I think there's a familiar theme here that I'll identify for everyone. It's engagement. Being engaged with your surroundings, with your colleagues, your counterparts, and yourself to make sure that you apply. And the key word that Camaria just said there was stretch. If it were easy, everyone would be doing it. Sometimes you do have to go outside of your comfort zone and challenge yourself to advance either in the same organization or moving to another one with a promotion. But it's that engagement, I think, that's going to be the key. A little tidbit advice I'll give here is nothing happens by itself. You don't walk down the street and have Warren Buffett approach you and say, you're my new deputy. Let's go back to Nebraska. Or Omaha. So you do have to make your own luck as you go about it, but it's the way that you engage and your confidence, as Camaria said, in that engagement that is going to be really critical. So thank you very much for that. So Tim, innovation. I mean, here we are on a Zoom call during a pandemic and on fire and there's smoke. That requires innovation to address on a societal level, but in terms of how does innovation really apply itself in the workplace? And I'll fess up, the internet did not exist. I started working after I left Sac State. So and here I am. I figured this all out. I'm on the Zoom call. So we have to innovate, but how does that innovation apply itself in the workplace, and kind of how we like to convey that to the students listening today?
Yeah, no, I'm taking notes here from all of you. So thank you for all the content. It's inspirational for sure. I'm in sales. There's a global pandemic and I can't see anybody, right? It's something that we talked about the word pivot. You have to pivot, and you have to pivot quickly. Otherwise you're going to be left behind, and you have to try new things, and you can't be afraid to fail. How many more cliches can I come up with? But it's something that you truly have to live by. And you talk about innovation. I've flipped the script a little bit. I've gone old school. Obviously you have to be on Zoom calls, and you have to figure out your Zoom calls, and you're raising the hands and doing all this stuff, and figuring out the functionality of technology. But I've gotten back to handwritten notes and writing. I'm a big LinkedIn user. I would like to utilize the platform a little bit more than I am now, but that's how I now connect to people, to like-minded business owners and executive directors, and everybody else who's running shop here in the Sacramento area. And I could sometimes send them a LinkedIn message, but a lot of the times I take the time with my crappy left-handed handwriting, and I probably have to write it 4 different times, write a handwritten note, like somebody's new to Sacramento, they just accepted a position with the company. I will say, Susie, welcome to Sacramento. It's a great place to live and work. I'm sure you're very excited about your opportunity that you have with ABC Company. And if you absolutely need anything at all, I'm here to assist. We talk about givers and takers, and this isn't really about technology and innovation. I think it's just going back to the basics. You can either be a giver or you can be a taker. And trust me, you will get so much farther ahead by being a connector, by being a giver. Kelly Siefkin, do you hear this? This is you. And just leveraging, the people that you want to help and are like-minded folks that you enjoy being around. And the more you give, you just get it back in spades.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. I mean, there is no greater joy than helping someone achieve their goal they want to achieve with a little bit of assistance and guidance. The more than a handful of people that I've been able to do that, there is no greater joy. I mean, in fact, that's almost more exciting than hiring someone.
Yes.
Is helping someone achieve, and you set them on a new career path, and it'll always come back to you. So as much innovation as occurs, it always comes back. And I'll have people that I'll see after 20 years, and we'll have a laugh.
Fun.
Look at us now.
Yeah.
In fact, I still can't believe I'm doing what I'm doing right now, and they pay me. I mean, it's fantastic. But helping others, I think, is really a hallmark, really of Sac State, because that's where you learn that kind of giving spirit. And now with, and Amanda mentioned, with President Nelson, there is no finer president, college or university institution, certainly in California, if not the country, primarily because he cares about every single student and every single member of the faculty and all of the alumni, all in one. And he does it with such grace and commitment, and the word that Amanda used, the passion. I'll challenge everyone on, there's 28 on the Zoom call right now. Seek out Dr. Nelson and have a conversation with him, because he'll have one with you. But rare is the approachable president. And remember, he's the one who brought this, which was not a thing back when I was in university. But he's brought that to the university. And I'll say the Sacramento word that's in the title of our school is the community. And he believes it and lives it. And seek him out. Without being too candid, the president of the university, there were 2, were not as approachable. And I think when you get that from your leadership, it's a wonderful thing. So we're almost close to the breakout session. And I think now is kind of the group nugget, lightning round period for the program. We'll go through all 3 of you on this one so you can prepare. I'll go Tim, Camaria, then Amanda. Someone just walked up to you in their cap and gown, and they just moved their tassel from the right to the left. What would you tell them to do if they would graduate that summer? And then what would you tell them to do beginning immediately in the end of August? Because of course they would normally be going back to school, but now they're going into life. So there's 2 things you can tell that recent graduate. What would those 2 things be? So Tim.
Take your time is what I would say. Worked hard to get to that point of graduating. And, it doesn't matter where you are in your age of life. You want to make some educated moves, right? You don't want to live by fear, but you also want to explore your options, leverage that network, and look at opportunities that you really want to thrive in. You always hear that do what you love, and it can be tough, right? It can be really tough because sometimes doing what you love doesn't necessarily pay the bills or put food on the table. But talk about being content and satisfied with your life. Follow your passions, because you can't be afraid of what you want to do on this planet. There are a lot of people that will scoff at your path or what you're trying to do or what you're looking to accomplish. You have to shut those folks out. And you have to align yourself with people that you respect and admire that are going to support you throughout your endeavor. So it doesn't have to be a rush into absolutely anything. Take your time, look at your options, and explore what's out there. You know, a lot of people talk about, you know, Lance and Amanda have left the country. Those aren't options now. but you know, post pandemic, those will all be options. And take a step, take a leap, and take some risks, but do it, you know, with your best interests at heart.
So now that you put every potential into a panic, it's like because life will come at you fast. But I like that patience. That's really a good piece of advice, because you're all going to have a sense of urgency on graduating and then finding that next step. What you're hearing from Tim, at least, is it will come. Just be open and ready for it when it does, in fact, come. Camaria, you just got approached by a graduate with their tassel on. What would you say?
I would have two little pieces of advice. No matter what job they take, no matter what career path or industry they go into, the best quality they can have is empathy. And there are numerous studies out there. Harvard Business Journal has written several about what it means to just see people that you work with, your coworkers or your customers, with a sense of empathy, knowing that you're going to engage with people who are going through something you have no idea, or you're going to manage a team for the first time, and there's going to be parents or people who have elderly parents at home, or someone who's just battling mental illness or whatever it may be. But having an empathetic approach to how you deal with people in the workplace or even at home will take you so far. I mean, I cannot even tell you that if we look at people with humanity, it not only is humbling for you as a person, but I think that it just goes really, really far as just making sure that people are taken care of. You know, this pandemic has been very scary for a lot of people, you know, in the workplace, and it's really heavy. But if you can show a little empathy to your coworkers, it really goes a long way. Remember how I talked earlier about people be advocating for you? Those are the people who are going to advocate for you later and be like, you know what? They understood I was going through something or whatever it may be. I just think that having an empathetic approach is one of the best qualities. My second one, really quickly, is from a financial lens. No matter where you start, if your company has a 401k or a deferred comp or a retirement savings plan, start early. My experience at Home Depot when I was like 18, 19 years old, one of my managers said that she could leave the company a very wealthy woman that day because of her retirement plan. And I think a lot of times graduates are like, right now, taking care of their self right now. And you also have to think of your 65-year-old self, right? And I know that we don't talk about retirement planning it's not a really cool topic, but it matters, and compound interest will really pay for itself in the long term. So the earlier you can start a 401k or deferred comp or retirement savings plan, when you first get into your very first position, the better. And believe you me, you can roll it over to any company that you go to. So just start early. Yeah. That's my soapbox for sure.
Lance, I want to change my answer to Camaria's answer.
Yeah. So the first question when you go into an interview ought to be, so tell me about your 401k.
Yes. And do you have company match? And are you going to give me free money for my retirement? Yes.
Take advantage of it.
Absolutely.
That is great advice, Camaria. Thanks. Amanda, so that graduate just walked up to you. What are you going to tell them?
Okay, so I'm gonna echo that, and I'm so embarrassed working at a financial institution that wasn't on my list. So thank you for saying that. So I'm gonna give you two words that I think are imperative that you use when you are looking for that job or you're in your first career outside of graduation. Yes, if. Eliminate no and start with yes. We can all start with yes. It goes back to that innovation piece. It's yes, I can do this if I have these tools, or yes, I can do this if I have this opportunity to learn this. So instead of saying, no, I don't know how to do that, or I don't know how to work Excel to that extent to build that spreadsheet, or whatever it may be, don't start with the no, start with the yes, and think of what you need to make that happen. Doesn't guarantee that it's going to, but at least you started off that conversation letting them know that you were willing to try. So that's number one. And then second, this is such a tiny little piece of advice, but I think it's really going to be helpful. So maybe you're graduating, you don't have that job opportunity yet, but you have a lot of interviews coming up. If we're still in a pandemic, you're going to be doing those by Zoom. So up in your upper right-hand corner, there's 3 little dots. One of them is hide self-view. They say right now that 72% of the population is so distracted by watching themselves on Zoom that it takes away from their ability to be authentic, and it exhausts you to the point where you're more tired at the end of the day. Right. So if you think about it, when you're in a conversation with someone, you're not looking at yourself. There's no mirror behind them where you're saying, oh my gosh, my hair looks weird, my eyes are twitching, whatever. Get rid of it so that you can fully focus on the person that you're having the conversation with and not with yourself.
And that's advice I'm going to take, and I've been working for too long. That's amazing. That's perfect. Thank you, Amanda. We are approaching the time where we're going to go into the breakout sessions. I think Gerardo has sent out the links to all the participants, so I'm going to get out of the administrative way for that one. But I'm just going to, perhaps wrap up with a really quick, this is the lightning round. If you could wake up tomorrow in your dream job and assume that it's not the current one you have, what would it be? And I'll start by saying, if I could own a hardware store in the country, I'd be happy. I would wake up tomorrow and run that store and help people fix things. That's what I would do. Tim, what would you do?
I absolutely love my job, but if I could do anything, I would be a weatherman for KCRA Channel 3.
Very cool. Camaria.
I would still do corporate training, but I'd have my own corporate training development company. I love connecting with people and helping just encourage them, be their biggest cheerleader. So I would continue doing that just with my own ideas.
Excellent. And Amanda.
I would write the greatest novel sitting at a bistro in Paris every single morning with my cup of coffee. Okay.
And I'll do your proofreading for you. I think that brings us to the conclusion of this part of the program. And don't leave, anybody. You're now getting the links from Gerardo in the chat area. So Tim and Camaria and Amanda are going to have their own breakout rooms where you're really going to be able to drill in and get more specific with them. I encourage you, engage. That's the word of the day. Engage with each of these alumnus who've given the time for this. And all as a member of the Alumni Association Board, I'm going to welcome you all in advance to joining the Alumni Association upon graduation. So with that, I think, Gerardo, I'll turn it back to you. And if you have any instructions for us or Jennifer, we'll defer there. And I'd really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you very much for letting me moderate this great group.
Well, thank you, everybody, for being here. And yes, Lance, phenomenal job moderating. And Tim, Camaria, and Amanda, thank you so much for everything. And so, yes, so we're going to go off to our individual rooms now. So I did put in specific rooms for those who want to join Tim. You're going to be in breakout room number 1. And so you can go ahead and copy and paste that. To join Amanda and hear a little bit more about her journey, you can go to breakout room number 2. And then Camaria, if you are interested in everything that she shared, you can go into breakout room number 3. So participants, I advise you to go ahead and copy and paste that from the chat room and then put that into your computer or your web browser, and then you're able to join. But again, thank you so much for joining. I know people will start to leave, and so we'll just wait. But our panelists, if you would like to sort of sign off and join us in the breakout rooms, we'd love that. And thank you again.